Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, number 2 would be the Super Mario Bros. Movie, number 3 would be Book Club, The Next Chapter, number 4 would be Evil Dead Rise, and number 5 would be Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret, and I got all 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. No surprises, no, sneaky maneuvers around other movies, just 5 out of 5. What a glorious Mother's Day. And congratulations to all you people who got your predictions right as well. Your shoutouts are being blasted onto the screen right now. Congrats, everybody. Not everybody, just these people who got it right, pretty much. And if you didn't, better luck next time. I did notice some people thinking that Book Club might get a little bit higher just because of the timing of the release, and while that was a good thought, nah, at the end of the day. But let's go over what actually happened in the overall top 10. Number 1 was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, last weekend, I make this case for a lot of big tentpole blockbuster movies these days, is that the second weekend is going to be more interesting to talk about and might give a bit more of a good stance on like where the movie is standing right now. And I'm happy to say that this movie's hold was incredible. Like, there's some reports saying that it's like one of the best holds for like a comic book movie in like quite a while. So last weekend it made about 114, I believe the actual number was maybe 116 million, so around there. And it didn't even drop 50%. It's actually a little under that, like, or in like higher 40s, percentage of a drop. It made $60 million this weekend. In case you can't tell, that is an incredible hold. And obviously, it's not like there was a whole lot of competition, but even, when an MCU movie isn't going up against a lot of competition, sometimes it can drop. Even movies, like a Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which get, great reviews, great acclaim, even that can have like a significant drop for whatever reason. This movie, however, the word of mouth has actually really spread. It actually has really caught on. And I just want to say, suck it to every person that I saw who was like, ooh, this is a flop, Jimmy Gunn going out on a flop, future of DC, my ass, this is gonna have like a 60 or 70% drop, just wait. Suck it. You're wrong. So obviously wrong. So yeah, it made $60 million this weekend. That adds to a domestic total of $213 million. It has outgrossed in the MCU. Just to give a good understanding of where we are with this movie and how great this hold was for it, it has outgrossed The Incredible Hulk by $79 million, The First Thor by $32 million, The First Avenger by $37 million, Thor the Dark World by $7 million, Ant-Man 1 by $33 million, Black Widow by $30 million, and Eternals by $49 million. And it is only $1 million behind Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and then it outgrosses that entire domestic run in just 2 weekends. Ant-Man and the Wasp was in theaters for how long? Like about 2 months or so? Like how long was it in the top 10? And it only, garnered enough right here, like 214 million, and Guardians of the Galaxy is right now in its second weekend, $1 million behind that. Yeah, this movie's doing way better. And worldwide, it is sitting at $528 million, so $500 million, and also doubled its $250 million budget. It has already outgrossed Black Widow by $149 million in the MCU, Quantumania by $64 million, Eternals by $127 million, Shang-Chi by $96 million, the first Ant-Man by $10 million, First Avenger by $158 million. It has outgrossed the first Thor movie by $79 million and $263 million over The Incredible Hulk, and it is behind the first Iron Man by $57 million. So it is on its way, for sure. It still has a ways to go until it outgrosses both the Guardians movies domestically and worldwide. Domestically, for the first one, $120 million behind that, $176 million behind Volume 2, and then worldwide, $242 behind Volume 1 and $341 behind Volume 2. But with this incredible hold, who even knows if Fast X is going to be enough to really take this movie off of its A game, you know what I mean? Fast X is really the only big release coming out next week, and that's really the only movie that's like going to be worth predicting for the top 5. Not to jump ahead to that, but even then, it's like with I wouldn't say waning interest in Fast the Furious, but just, these movies have been going on for so long now, and people, the reception to each of them has kind of been waning as far as like excitement or intrigue into what's coming next. So I genuinely, and I'm just going to have an early guesstimate that Guardians of the Galaxy is going to have better reviews than Fast X. So I'm, fully anticipating maybe Fast X to overtake it, but I think, give it some time, and Guardians of the Galaxy is still maybe going to be, on track to keep making this money, and that's really exciting for me at the very least, because I adore this film. It's probably my favorite film of the year, if I'm honest with you. Like, it's between this and Beau is Afraid, but Beau is Afraid didn't make me cry as much as this movie did, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I think that's the exact sentiment and word of mouth, getting to people, making them want to go see this. Like, what's it all about? What do you, what's in store for me here? People are saying this is really different. I want to see that, which is great. Number 2 is the Super Mario Bros. Movie, making $13 million, adding to a domestic total of $535 million. For the all-time charts, it has outgrossed Rogue One by $2 million and The Dark Knight by $1 million, and it is behind the 2019 Lion King movie by $8 million, and once it outgrosses that, it is the number 14 highest-grossing domestic run of all time, and of course it'll outgross other ones as well as we go on. Worldwide, it is now sitting at $1,210 million, and for the all-time worldwide run list there, it is still $5 million behind Iron Man 3's $23 million. So, yeah, this movie is still chugging along. But if I'm being honest, who cares? Because I'm only interested in how Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be doing from now on. Because, I need this to get, triple its budget. I need it to, get to $1 billion. Will it? I don't know. Maybe slowly. Maybe it won't. But, tripling its budget will be fine enough, you know what I mean? Like, this movie's already fine, you know what I mean? Let's move on to number 3, though, not to cut off Mario short, but I have nothing else to add to this, other than, hey, Chris Pratt is having a great fucking year, box office-wise. Number 3 is Book Club: The Next Chapter. Now, the first Book Club, if you don't remember, in 2018, that was kind of like a surprise, and it debuted with like a 13 million, opening weekend. It wasn't big, but, it had a little bit of legs, and it went on to gross $68 million domestically and $106 million worldwide. So this opening only being $7 million below that opening with $6 million isn't great, especially with today's kind of like climate of, movie theater audiences. But, maybe this movie will have a solid hold. I do think releasing it around Mother's Day was maybe a smart strategy, but maybe not that smart, going up against what many people consider like one of the MCU's best movies in quite a while, and that not anticipating that great hold. I don't know. But still, just considering the fact that the other movie had such a surprising, run, especially after a $13 million opening, it's not officially the end for this one. Worldwide, it is sitting at $9 million, so it's not that much of a boost. It doesn't look great initially, but I guess you just never know these days. The budget is $20 million, of course, so it still has to get to that doubling point of $40 million. So this isn't, at first glance, this isn't great, but I'm slightly optimistic that it might have legs just because of how the first movie did, or maybe it won't and it's dead on arrival. Who fucking knows? Let's move on to number 4, which is Evil Dead Rise, making $3 million, adding to a domestic total of $60 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $131 million, $19 million away from getting to $150 million. That next kind of, 50, 100 million, 150, that kind of sequence there. I mentioned that because I have nothing else to add for this movie other than, hey, this is a pretty good Mother's Day film to take your mum to, take the whole family. I'm surprised Book Club did better, to be honest with you. I've already covered a lot of this, so let's move on to number 5, which is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which is still not doing great. It's still holding out in the top 5, which is fun to say the least, and it did have an accomplishment for the director, Kelly Fremon Craig. It made $2.5 million this weekend, which adds to a domestic total of $16 million, so that places it $2 million over the domestic run of Edge of 17. So at least a little personal achievement. This film domestically did better than your previous one. It still is nowhere near doubling its $30 million budget, and there's no worldwide total to help, boost that over. Kind of disappointing to say that, because it is a good movie, and I'm hoping that, every time I can at least say like, hey, go see this if you still can, that it's convincing at least one person to maybe change their mind and go see it. But who knows? This is, I don't know. Some movies these days, are just destined to be the ones that like get, screen recorded and posted on Twitter with people going like, man, this movie's really great. Can't believe y'all slept on it. I say this a lot, but that's just the reality of, some movie theater audiences these days, is that they don't usually go to see a lot of stuff, but then they'll complain about movies that have flopped, even if they maybe have participated in the flopping. Let's move on to number 6, which is a big flop. The biggest flop. So much of a flop that I even saw it coming a mile away. Last weekend I was like, I'm not even going to predict it for the top 5. Some of you did, and that's fine. I can see where you're coming from. But number 6 was Hypnotic. Robert Rodriguez and Ben Affleck's latest flop. You know, it made $2.3 million this weekend, and this is on a budget, no worldwide total, just right now domestically, $2.3 million on a budget of $65 million. Holy shit. And I looked through some other records. I was like, you know, as far as like Robert Rodriguez opening weekends, where does this go? And if you don't count the movie 4 Rooms, and that's a movie that's like an anthology. Robert Rodriguez directed a portion of it, I believe. Tarantino did also. So it's like, it's kind of his, but it's kind of not. This movie had a opening 1 million above that. But if you don't count 4 Rooms, this is the lowest opening weekend Robert Rodriguez has ever had for a movie. You know, and it's $2 million away from outgrossing 4 Rooms, so there's that. But it's like, it's nowhere near getting to the other movies right now. And that's, you know, I'm sure quite a big shame, but to be honest, I'm surprised that it even got to number 6 and not like in the 100,000s because, you know, when it comes to marketing, I mean, I keep up with movie stuff all the time, so like I knew it was coming out, but I maybe saw the trailer for this movie once for another film in the theater, but with like a limited audience, so I didn't really even know how much this movie's, you know, presence was making itself known. I'm surprised that it even made 2 million, you know, so yeah, that's just, I'm sure it's a big bummer, but also this movie was terrible. And that word of mouth is dangerous as well for a movie. Let's move on to number 7, which is John Wick Chapter 4, making $1.9 million, adding to a domestic total of $182 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $418 million. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to this too, other than, yeah, it's obviously nowhere close to getting to 200 million domestically. I would have loved that. I would have loved it this held over, especially like if it got over Hypnotic. That would have been great to see. And, you know, hey, maybe there's a chance that still happens, but still, it doesn't need that at this point. I've said that a bunch of times. It's quadrupled. It's $100 million budget. Look at it go. It's doing fantastic. Let's move on to number 8, which is Love Again. Not really holding over that well either, making $1.5 million, adding to a domestic total of $5 million. And even though last weekend, like I said, the budget is $9 million, that's pretty good, you know, that's pretty low for like a modern day rom-com. You know, the stars aren't big. Like, some people might know who Priyanka Chopra Jones is, but she's not really a household name, so it's not like the budget is over bloated, you know, paying these big stars. But still, like, they just can't double that budget. Worldwide, they're only sitting at 7 million, so they can't even get across the initial production budget, you know. And, it is a bummer that they released this on the weekend of an MCU movie. You know, I don't know if maybe releasing it this weekend instead would have helped. I guess then you would have been in competition with Book Club. I'm not really sure where else you maybe could have placed this movie other than in a drier kind of season. You know, I don't know, you know. Like I said, maybe February would have been a better time. I don't know if the movie was completely ready then, like if they had the picture locked or if they still had some other, you know, tweaks to go. But I don't know, you know. Bummer, big bummer, but this movie wasn't that great, so who cares? Let's move on to number 9, which is Air. Now on Amazon Prime, by the way, but still getting some money. Not in the millions, though, anymore, making $768,000, adding to a domestic total of $51 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $86 million. So, yeah, still, for Ben Affleck, this is at least a little bit of a win. Even though, yeah, it didn't double its $70 to $90 million budget, but we've already discussed multiple times how that's not really applicable because it's also half an Amazon streaming movie, so who cares? You know, you look at these numbers and compare them to Hypnotic, it's like, oh yeah, this movie's doing way better, obviously. Anyways, let's close out the video with number 10, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Last time it's going to be here, and it's such a bummer it never doubled its $150 million budget. I can only pray that word of mouth, you know, and you know, home rentals and eventually a streaming release on Paramount Plus can help boost people's awareness of this thing. I see people tweeting about it all the time, and, you know, it hasn't really led to like this big revival or anything yet, or like, hey, we are going to make a sequel, we're going to test the waters or anything. It's such a shame. Please go watch this movie now that it's, you know, at home. You know, let's make some waves on the digital charts. It's such a great movie. Seriously, go watch it. But anyways, it made $741,000 this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $92 million, and worldwide it is sitting at $205 million. So rest in peace, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Truly a great blockbuster. Please check it out. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, Easy Fast X. But like I said, we'll see how it compares with Guardians in the weeks to come too, especially with Little Mermaid around the corner. These movies, will have to compete for, whatever the number 2 slot is. And if the Guardians hold is pretty good and the Fast X kind of reception is middling, like I'm predicting, maybe we'll see a flip-flop. I mean, it's happened before with the Guardians movie, where Guardians of the Galaxy opened number 1. The week later, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, and that was number 1. But then, because word of mouth was stronger for the first Guardians than it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they flip-flopped. So maybe that can happen again. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, number 2 is my prediction is for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And then number 3, I'm going with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Number 4, Book Club, The Next Chapter. And number 5, Evil Dead Rise. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.